text Regina.
Okay. And then I'll share, Patrick, do you want me to share the HB 178 that you sent me?
The reprint, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Okay, we're streaming. Okay, it's this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This
Can
is
everyone
178.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it. Brooke might have a little trouble, but
That's
It's
true.
okay. It's okay. I can see
Okay.
it.
okay, great. So Patrick, do you want to just do a quick review of 178, and then I'd like to hear and then we'll just do some questions, and I know the troopers on here. So I talked to Mike, you on, right? No?
I see his video, like his picture. Oh, it says he's connecting to audio.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead? Patrick, do you want to just give a quick synopsis?
Well, this is Vaughn Stewart's bill,
Mhm.
4 different violations of the motor vehicle law.
Oh, man.
It sets a right at $500 fine, which is not usually how we do it, for knowingly evading automated enforcement on the registration plate. He talks about getting these hidden little things you can get from Amazon, but as Mike will tell you, you can get them from other places too. He increases the penalties, the points for both reckless driving and a race and speed contest, or at least a race and speed contest that results in serious bodily injury. Also for reckless driving, there's a must appear, even though there is no jail time associated with that penalty. Also makes it a must appear for a race and speed, appearing in a race and speed contest, and makes the maximum fine $1,000 for that, which would be $1,000 in jail time, which is current law, if there's bodily injury. And then finally, with the exhaust system piece, increases the fine to $200 set, again, not a maximum.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
Sorry.
Mike, did you have any, well, does anybody, I called the trooper, I called Mike and talked to Mike a couple of days ago, just if he had any comments. So I thought I'd give him a chance to talk a little bit, and then that way people can ask him questions directly as far as, state police policy is concerned. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Is he on the line?
I just keep saying connecting to audio.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry, I can't do the raise function because I'm on my phone. What is the exhaust? I understand that the other parts of the legislation all sort of go to safety issues. The exhaust is feels like more of an environmental issue. So I'm just sort of curious, and maybe I just missed this in the sponsor's testimony, and I had gone to pull it up, and we don't have power, so I have no internet. So I can't pull it up. What is the nexus between the exhaust piece of the bill and everything else? Or is it
Noise.
I think that
Noise.
big piece.
noise?
Yeah. A lot of
Okay.
times what people will do when they're trying to make their cars faster is they'll swipe out the exhaust system for one that breathes easier, so that there's less, I guess, resistance from the engine as the engine expels all the gases. And in doing so, often it makes it louder and provides for increased horsepower.
I see.
Delegate Jacobs, is that accurate? Is that fair? I know you were talking about the other day with your Harley. Is that right?
No.
Yes, it is. That is exactly right.
Look, I'm gonna tell you, I think that noise part of the muffler part of this is a mistake. You're opening up a big can of worms there. They've done.
Another letter.
I don't think it belongs in this bill.
So isn't the sponsor okay with us taking that piece out though?
I think so, but I'm just saying that it really doesn't, it doesn't fit with the rest of it.
Right.
In
Let me
testimony,
see, he
he said
just
that we
checked
could
with me.
split the bill up as we needed to. So we could split this one out and kind of vote on that one separately if we wanted to.
Can I ask why this opens up a big can of worms?
Because I don't understand what the problem is with the noise. I can understand racing and I can understand
All
that,
right.
but mufflers,
Check with CT's office.
you know,
See if they'll.
that just to me doesn't fit what the rest of the bill's trying to do.
Well, and the piece about it also is some of the stuff comes stock and some of it's aftermarket and it gets complicated. Mike, can you chime in? Are you on yet?
I finally figured it out. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You just press the button, that's all.
Okay. Well, I'm doing it from my phone, so I had to log on and then dial in so I could get the audio and
Okay.
voice.
Do you,
So
does
I
the
missed
police have a position on
Most of the
this?
conversation. So if you could just give me a quick. I understand we're talking about separating the noise abatement from the rest of it.
That possibly. We're just talking about the bill in general. It has several aspects of the bill, and it kind of makes an attempt to go after, I guess, racers and evaders. But it's got like 4 different elements. So I don't know if you want to speak on the elements. I know that Delegate Jacobs has some concern with the noise piece of it, the muffler piece of it. So please.
Okay, the noise of it, I'm fortunate. I live out in the country. I don't have a personal issue on that. I know we have noise abatement programs where we send trucks out and they actually measure the noise that commercial vehicles make, mostly from their exhaust. It's not from the muscle cars that I believe I heard part of the conversation. And it's a very targeted based on complaint enforcement. I know Montgomery County has a problem with it with some of their rural roads where the trucks, they have to downshift and they're using the braking systems they're not supposed to. So we have targeted enforcement based on complaints on that. The other portions of the bill that I saw are the reckless and racing. That's a penalty issue. The police don't typically get involved in that. We're more than happy to say, as a victim's advocate, there are unfortunately many times that there could be a fatal accident that doesn't go to the level of criminal activity. It's just an accident. And say I could get charged with reckless driving, and yet I caused an accident that killed an entire family. I pay the fine, and the family actually never gets any closure because they never get a day in court. And then the police are kind of left in a bad spot because the family's like, why didn't you keep us informed? Well, the person paid the fine, so there was never any court action. So we weren't involved.
Okay, I will say for the subcommittee, I had a bill in that went to judiciary, I think 2 or 3 years in a row to change that. So if there was a serious injury, or in particularly the bill stated if there was a death involved, if there was a fatality, that they couldn't just pay the fine, they had to show up in court. I could not get that bill out of judiciary for 2 years in a row. And I know the chairman is uncomfortable with that aspect of it, I guess in part because something that was that specific was assigned to judiciary in the past. I don't know what everybody else's feelings are.
I have a question. Patrick said something, I mean, I like the must appear and may not prepay. I'm in support of that. Patrick said something about $1,000 fine and jail time.
Patrick? Patrick?
Looks like he stepped away for a minute.
Yeah, Patrick Tracy, are you there?
I was muted. I don't know why I was muted.
Go ahead.
This is on the speed racing portion, Delegate Love. And The bill provides that a person convicted of violating, the speed racing is subject to a fine not exceeding $1,000. But the current violation, that's for the whole section. That includes timekeeper, flagman, all that. A person convicted of it and results in serious bodily injury to another is 1 year and a $5,000 fine or both. That's current law. That's all that I mentioned.
So,
That is current law. That's not
okay,
changed.
if that's current law, then why do we need that?
Exactly.
I'm confused.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's extending it to the flagman, the subsection B, flagman, timekeeper, et cetera. That's how I read it.
Oh. So if they're engaged
Okay.
in a,
Because the jail time only applies to the racer.
Oh,
so this applies to anybody that's helping to run a speed contest.
Okay.
Yes, but it doesn't seem like it's explicit. It doesn't seem,
Okay, I'm having a hard time reading the bill because I'm only getting the first page on what you're sharing. Is there a way for me to do that, or I have to wait for you to change the page?
Yeah, I can change.
court system.
Would you want a specific page or just the?
Page 4.
Okay. Page 4.
Okay.
I have a question just on this. So I'm looking at the bill in the system, and so I see that there have been some edits. I think I'm kind of confused.
We don't have the amendments.
So what we're looking at are his proposed amendments. What we're looking
Right.
at on the screen that Molly is controlling, those are his proposed amendments. And not what was submitted, not what's in the system. Is that
Those are his
correct?
proposed amendments, correct?
Okay, well, I need to look over here then.
okay, I have a little bit of clarification, that it's $1,000 in jail if you race and injure someone, but it's only 500 if you don't injure someone. The bill would increase it to 1,000 and apply it to the timekeeper, flag person, et cetera.
Correct. That's my reading.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I will mention for, I don't know if everybody else remembers, but I don't know, I think that Vaughn may have mentioned it in the hearing, but 6 or 7 years ago on the Indian Head Highway in Prince George's County, there was a big wreck where 6 or 7 kids, racers and
Yep.
I remember that.
got wiped out. They got killed.
Yeah.
So
You know what happened in that one? There was actually 2 races going at the same time and they didn't know it.
Yep.
well, and there goes the I guess the extension to those that are participating in the racing. Right, but here's the question, Mike, maybe this is for you. Can we extend that to timers and other people that are not actually behind the wheel of a motor vehicle? Does that, if they don't even have a driver's license, how does that work to extend civil or criminal citations to those that are not behind the wheel of a motor vehicle? Can we do that?
Well, if you put it in the transportation article, it applies to your driver's license, obviously. Patrick, you can help me if I'm speaking awry, but if you do not have a driver's license, you can still have the penalties. The only thing you don't get is the points.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a criminal violation. If there's only $1,000 fine in the bill for a maximum $5,000 fine in the bill for the timers and the flag wavers and all. But yeah, they'd be subject to that. As an officer, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, an officer could write them a citation for that, whether they have a license or not.
Okay. Well, what I would suggest is let's go through the bill kind of one piece at a time, and then we'll hold it so that I can review with Delegate Stewart, and I know some others probably want to think about it. Let's kind of try to make a little headway on it. I don't have any problem with extending it to the timers, given what happened on Indian Head Highway. Does anybody else have any problem with that?
Well,
No, no problem.
I think, I guess I do a little bit, like, what counts then as somebody who it's extended to? You are just watching and not timing, like,
Yeah.
I don't, does it count against everybody? I don't know, that starts getting, I feel like that's a little bit of a slippery slope, but I don't know.
There's always observers.
It doesn't say observers.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
law says a timekeeper or a flagman.
Okay,
And for the record, that's already in the
I'll
law.
watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just can't
That's
see it.
already in the law.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
It's already in the law, right? You're saying?
Okay.
no, I'm fine with that extension. It's
Okay.
by participation.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. So Patrick, that just takes, so if that's already in the law, the flag person or timer, that goes from 500 to 1,000?
That's in the bill.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
I'm okay with that aspect. We can kind of
That's fine.
pencil check it off if everybody's okay with that.
Yep.
Okay, let's take the other piece, since we have Mike on the exhaust system. Is that for modifying an exhaust system? Because I can't read it unless it's further up that he.
No, the way I understand it, it would be any exhaust system. Typically, you have to modify them because to pass Maryland inspection, it's not going to pass if it would be, for lack of a better term, offensive. So it would have to be modified. I know Delegate Lamb a couple years ago had an exhaust bill for diesel vehicles that would blow smoke. That was actually part of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Coal rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually a not modification, but an option within the vehicle for its performance, where you hit the switch, it would flow richer diesel through the engine, which would make the smoke. It would also make it loud. But the reason that was there is because if you're towing a boat out of the water or a heavy piece of equipment, you need that additional horsepower. So it could go either way, but typically it's a modification.
Where is that in the bill, Patrick? I'm
At the
looking
very
out on the
end.
screen, but
It's the end.
what's that?
Right
That's
there.
the end.
Okay.
Well, if it has to do with a modification, should we
Thank you, I can see.
explicitly it's a modification so that there is no mistaken? So that it can't be mistaken, so that it's very explicit?
I don't think
I
that,
think it
maybe
belongs
you
in
can-
this bill.
Well, I think it is pretty explicit. A person may not
Yeah.
modify the exhaust system or any other noise abatement device of a motor vehicle driven or to be driven on any highway in the state in such a way that the noise emitted by the vehicle exceeds, now this is where he's got an amendment, 95 decibels when tested in accordance with the Society of Automotive Engineers Standard J 1492.
See, that's what I don't know I don't know what 95 decibels is. I don't know how loud that is.
And Delegate, if I may interrupt, and that's what makes it unenforceable.
Okay.
Because you don't know what it is, I don't know what it is,
That's right.
the driver may not know what it is, and it could be 96, it could be 120, it could be 80. Unless you have an odometer, I think that's the right word, you have to measure the decibels. You can't
Yeah.
do that without specific equipment, and you're not going to be able to do that like on the fly.
Jay?
And I'll tell you something else about your meter. When you go to test one of those, it's going to have to be calibrated all the time, and it's one disaster after another. I've been all through this calibration of decibel meters when I was mayor.
Yeah. I agree with you, sir. And it's the same when we do radar. We have to prove that we test them before and after, and they're calibrated annually. It is very odorous or burdensome on the prosecution.
Okay. What is the subcommittee's thoughts on removing this? I get it because it's really annoying when people come by and they've modified their exhaust, and a lot of times it's just done to be really loud and obnoxious because they're kids and that's
But
what they wanna
that's
do.
already in
But-
law, right? There's something already in law
That's-
about that.
That's right.
I think
Yeah.
the idea behind the 95 decibels, as I understand it from the sponsor, is that the driver would go get it measured after getting a ticket. But
Like an ERO.
Yeah, but
Not
that's
gonna
not,
work.
it's not his
but I
burden
think
to
the
prove.
enforcement challenge to it, I'm just letting you all know where the sponsor was. I think there's a lot of
Well,
questions that folks have.
What did the lieutenant say?
And quite frankly,
Yeah,
it's
what
not his burden to prove. It's not his burden to prove it wasn't 95. It's my burden to prove it is.
Yep. Okay.
And they're
Okay,
not gonna do that, Mike, like, they're not gonna do that if you do like an ERO. A traditional station isn't gonna have equipment repair order. A traditional station isn't gonna have the sound equipment to measure that. I mean, how would you even get that checked out? Is there a place you would go?
You'd have to go to probably one of our commercial vehicle enforcement stations, and unless you change a whole lot of law, that's changing a whole lot of law.
Okay,
But the
so,
burden is certainly not on the driver or the owner to prove they did the violation. The burden is on law enforcement to show they did.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
so what I'm hearing, and please chime in if I'm wrong, is that maybe this piece of the bill on the exhaust needs to come out.
I agree.
Amen.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to what is the other piece. Let's take on the tag. So I think on the tag, my understanding of the tag, and I guess I've seen them before, is they basically put some kind of piece of plastic cover over the tag to obscure the visibility of the tag. Is that not illegal now, Mike?
Yes, it is. This bill only addresses obscuring your tag to evade a video tolling device. The biggest problem with that is you have to go through a video tolling device before I, as a police officer, could say you did it.
yeah,
So you could have that on your license plate and never drive across the ICC, never go across a bridge or tunnel, and it wouldn't be illegal, where the current law says obscuring already is. The other problem is the way this was written is, I think it's willful and knowingly. Well,
Yeah.
that's an intent. And proving intent is almost impossible if you have any lawyer who says, how do you know what they're thinking? Well, I don't, but that's what they did. No, it doesn't say what they did. It's what they meant to do.
Well, and not only that,
So I
if
was
they do,
thinking
if they do it, Mike, right, and the camera takes a picture, the camera's not going to be able to see the registration, the tag number anyway. So.
Correct.
Right.
So there would have to be a police car sitting right there, watch them go through, recognize the obscured tag, and then make a physical traffic stop.
What is the current fine for just having an obscured tag if they do a traffic stop?
I'm going to have to defer on that one. I believe it's only like $60.
Yeah.
But the other thing, Patrick and I spoke earlier, and since I have to prove intent, if I get one of these, covers that alters my tag, and I get pulled over for going through the tunnel, and they say, oh, well, you didn't pay the toll because you did this intentionally. It's like, oh, no, this said the Washington Football Club on it. I really like them. I didn't know it did that too. So the wording saying willfully and knowingly makes it almost impossible to enforce, on top of the fact that I'd have to see you in the actual circumstance where you avoided the toll.
So this is what I'm thinking, and I'd like to hear from everybody else. I get all of what you're saying about the enforceability of it, about knowingly obscuring the registration plate. about catching. I get all that. So here's the question. What is the current fine? And maybe we amend it to just increase the fine, but leave everything else, in code the same. So we're just increasing the fine so that there's some sting to it, but not all the other issues.
That would be my recommendation as well, because you really want to, if the goal is to stop the behavior, you want to stop the behavior regardless of when it's occurring.
Okay.
And this very narrowly takes it to a certain circumstance that would be enforceable.
Well, currently in the bill, he has a $500 fine. So if the current is 60, going up to 500.
Current is 70.
70. So what is the will of the subcommittee? Does everybody like the idea of scratching all the other part of it, but just increasing the fine? Or what is it?
I should say something here, Delegate. That never do we set fines at $500. We set maximum fines. And
Right, that's the maximum fine that the court has to offer. It is not the prepaid fine or the typical outcome.
But Mike, that's correct. But that's the current law, $500. But what the bill says is that it's subject to a fine of $500. That's a set fine.
It is.
Set
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
We get a lot of pushback from the courts if we do stuff like that. The judges hate it.
Yes.
That's why we don't do it. The judges are the expert at, what the fines and penalties be.
But
Right.
we
So
have
we
passed.
would
We
say-
can
Change it
increase
to
the
up to-
maximum.
So you're going to
Increase the
tell me
maximum and they usually take that hint.
Yeah,
this is a two-part statement, not so much a question, but you're going to tell me that obscuring my license plate could be up to $500, but smoking marijuana while I walk down the street is $25.
I think that's a subject for a completely different committee.
But I would like
Different
to,
bill.
You got it
and a
right.
complete- yeah.
but
I understand that.
But you're
at
talking
the
about-
same token,
running a red light is only $75. If you get a,
well, and let's remember, this same subcommittee last year passed a bill that MVA can't suspend registration because of unpaid video tolls. So why do I even need to do it anyway? I just never pay it. So you're kind of conflicting in what you're trying to accomplish. You don't want the tag obscured so you can get the fine or get the fees assessed, but then you remove the ability to collect that fee.
Okay, so
Just to be a little bit clear on the tolls, we did repeal the ability to suspend the registration, but we still left in the place that we won't renew it when it comes up for renewal. So there's still a timer.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
Right, the other part about this too.
It's treated my lease every 2 years and, okay, I digress. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, the simple fact of the matter is that what this bill is designed to do is address speed racers. It's addressed it's designed to address speed contests. So the idea of, raising the fine to not exceed or up to is something that we do in the subcommittee kind of all the time. I wouldn't say all the time, we do it quite regularly. So I guess my question to the subcommittee would be, what is the appetite for addressing this bill in a slightly different manner? Again, not saying, where he has it in 2A, a person convicted of the violation in this paragraph is subject to a fine of 500, but something along the lines of up to 500 or up to 250. And again, not, we're just increasing the fine regularly. And I would say the other difference in this, particularly on this bill, is the idea that somebody isn't just running a red light. They are intentionally purchasing something to obscure a license plate to avoid being caught for doing things they're not supposed to be doing. They are then taking two
So they can intentionally run the red light.
Let me finish. They are then intentionally taking 2 to 4 screws off of their front tag and their rear tag, because in the state of Maryland, you have to have a front tag and a rear tag. And they are intentionally, knowingly and intentionally putting something on their car that's designed to avoid being caught, whether that's for, red light cameras or speed cameras or whatever it is. And I think that's very different. Anyway, I'll stop talking and see what the committee has to say. I know Delegate Love, you started to say something earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of questions, just so we're all clear on what we're talking about. Are we looking at changing this, back up.
Just the fine.
Right, but just the fine for the obscuring a registration plate for purpose of evading automated enforcement of the Maryland vehicle law, or for obscuring your license? They're two different things. This addresses evading automated enforcement. The law as it is addresses, you can't obscure it for any reason.
I would think that, which is you can't obscure it for any reason. Basically, you're just increasing the fine of the existing law, not within the context of this bill, or have it in the bill, or we could just pull the whole thing out.
I mean,
Well, the way the bill,
can I finish?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
Yes.
Thank you. So I think I would prefer the discussion, either taking it out or the having it apply to obscuring the license plate for any reason whatsoever, because doing that to me means a law enforcement officer can't pull you over they can pull you over, but it makes it harder for them for any violation, not just automated violations. So thank you for that clarification. I'm done.
So Sarah, are you saying the same thing that I'm saying, just increase the fine in the general law, not within the specifics of this, the context of this bill?
Yes, I could go that way, or I could take this piece out.
Okay. Anybody else? Regina?
Yeah, I was thinking the same
Sarah.
thing as
I was
Sarah.
thinking the same, but good.
Yeah, that's fine.
I agree.
Neil, you were about to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I agree that I think it should either be a separate bill on its own or and move forward, because I think it's a good idea, but I just don't think it belongs in this bill. And then put it in the general law section where it's $75 right now. Just change it.
Patrick? You're on mute.
I don't think so.
There you go. I can hear you. Nope, other way.
I shouldn't be on mute.
Okay, you're
There you
okay.
go.
So you're just saying take it out?
We're saying we go one of two ways. It seems like we have consensus on going one of two ways. Either just take the whole thing out of the bill together and be done with it, or change or amend the bill so that all we're doing is dealing with existing law and raising the fine in existing law, but nothing to do with this bill. So we either do that or we just pull it out and just ask the delegate to put it in a separate bill.
I think that would be I think pulling it out and looking at it again next year would be probably the safer way to go. Let me read you something from AAA's testimony that I thought was interesting. So at the very end of their testimony, say, perhaps it is premature to say whether the surge in traffic crashes during the pandemic of 2020 is a one-off situation. AAA is loath to call for legislation based on situations that occur once in a lifetime or an anomalous rarefied set of circumstances, but yet they do support the bill. So,
all right.
but I thought that was an interesting take.
I could go either way. I think just pulling it out of the bill altogether and asking the delegate to put in a separate bill next year is the cleanest way of doing it, because
Yep.
we're not mixing the context of the racing aspect of the bill. But if anybody has something, okay, Regina, everybody else kind of agree? Cornbread.
Take it out.
Okay. Carl, do you have anything on this? You're quiet. You're okay? You think that's the best way to go?
He's muted.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I got two things going at once here, man.
That's okay. Just very quickly, what we seem to all have decided is to,
Yeah, I'm with you people.
okay, we're just going to pull it out. Okay, what's the next piece of the bill? That's three pieces now, right?
It's two pieces, three pieces. Yeah, you're right.
Three pieces.
Okay, the next piece is kind of merged. We've got two more things we want to address. The reckless driving is increased to 12 points from the current law 6 points. Now, points only goes to whether your license gets suspended or not. Doesn't go to insurance or anything like that. And then it also increases the points for participating in a race or speed contest that results in serious bodily injury from 5 points to 12 points.
Is it, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ann.
Is it just if it's in context of a race, or is it any time you have reckless driving?
Well, the reckless driving is reckless driving, period.
And
there's two
racing
different
also
pieces
a
to it.
reckless kind of driving?
Well, reckless driving is a violation of the code.
And these races are not?
The races are a violation of the code too. They're two separate violations.
Okay, so, and each one would be,
Patrick, I think it might help. I'm sorry,
just-
Patrick, I think it might help if you read what the code was for reckless driving, because there are some parameters. It's not totally subjective.
Give me a second here.
And while Patrick looks that up, Delegate, there's a difference between negligent, which is your accidental, even to the point of I picked up my cell phone that I shouldn't have and, lost my lane and caused a crash, versus reckless, which is a much more willful act than just an accident.
So in layman's terms, basically what that means is negligent is somebody who's just not paying attention or does something that just isn't thought of as very smart, where reckless is intentionally doing something like speeding down the road, in and out of traffic, intentionally driving in a reckless manner.
And I can read it to you if you'd like.
Please.
A person is guilty of reckless driving if he drives a motor vehicle, 1, in wanton or willful disregard for the safety of persons or property, or 2, in a manner that indicates a wanton or willful disregard for the safety of persons or property.
Question.
Yeah.
At what number of points do you lose your license?
I think it's 12.
Okay, so this is an automatic loss of license.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I
it's not
have a-
entirely, if I could interject real quickly, that's
Yes,
not
please.
entirely true. It's a 12-point assessment, but you can certainly go to MVA, do a driver improvement course, or a multiple of other things to not have your suspension activated immediately, or MVA doesn't necessarily have to assess all those points. There's a range of things that could happen, but it is not an automatic.
And a judge can knock them down too.
what?
Correct.
A judge can waive points, knock them down.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
So this aspect makes it a must appear and raises it from 6 points to 12 points.
For reckless driving. Now, keep in mind, Kumar has said he doesn't want to do must appears.
Yeah, he's concerned about forcing somebody to come.
And there's also the issue of the courts who don't like must appears either, unless there's a legitimate reason for them, like jail time. And quite frankly, the courts are in a mess too right now, and they're going to have to straighten themselves out the next couple of years. So there's two factors in the must appears here.
So
Okay,
go ahead, Andrea.
What I was going to say for me, because reckless driving can just be going, I don't know how many miles over the posted speed limit. You can get a ticket and it'll be listed as reckless driving. I'm not supportive of going up to 12 points. I don't mind going up, but I'm not going to support going up to 12 points just for reckless driving. For the Racing, that's a different story. And I think that, we should make sure that we bifurcate that. I think it's already like that now, based on what's in here, but I just want to make sure that we can, but I'm not going to support going 12 points for reckless driving, because not that anybody should be speeding, but as we heard last year, I don't know who we had one of the, it was a bill last year, we were talking about, I think it was the move over or speeding in the right lane, and the trooper, the police officer who was there speaking was talking about the amount of speed. I can't remember all of the details, but whatever it was, it seemed to be an excessive amount of speed. That probably could be considered reckless driving, but it was just as long as you were in the far left lane or something to that effect. And so I just don't think that we ought to do that just for the speeding.
Okay, so currently reckless driving is 6 points.
Correct.
Okay, and participating in a race or speed contest is 6 points or 12 points.
The current law is 5 points.
Okay, so what does everybody think? Like, I get what you're saying, Andrew. I totally get what you're saying. What does everybody think of simply changing the speed contest and putting that from 5 points to 12 points, but not redefining reckless driving, which again is, it's again throwing a bunch of different pieces into one bill, just kind of cleans up the bill a little bit. But if you are actively engaged in a speed race contest on a highway resulting in serious injury, to raise that from 5 points to 12 points.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I'm looking at the driving while impaired, and that is 8 points. So I agree with Delegate Harrison that reckless driving shouldn't be above driving while impaired. And I understand from what you just said, Mr. Chair, you're discussing not touching reckless driving and the points in that. So I'm in agreement with that. My question is, if we're going to raise participating in a race or speed contest on a highway resulting in serious bodily injury, what is the penalty for driving while impaired that results in serious bodily injury? What is the point there? Because what I don't want is it to be worse, to give the impression that it's okay to drive while drunk, but not to speed.
This isn't drive while drunk.
No, I know that. I understand that's not what this is, but
you're saying that even if we raise racing to 12 and driving while impaired remains where it is, then that would give the impression that driving while impaired is somehow less serious than racing.
Right.
yes, and this includes resulting in a serious bodily injury. So
Right.
I'm okay with increasing racing because it has that piece in it, but
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what the driving while impaired resulting in serious bodily injury point assessment is.
There's no distinction between serious bodily injury and point assessment for driving while impaired.
Really?
One.
The
So
distinction is it results in a fatality.
Okay, so then I have
But in terms of points, I'm talking about.
Okay, then I have a real problem. No, I shouldn't say I have a real problem, but I am concerned that it is sending not a good message.
What if you are driving while impaired that results in a fatality? Is that 12 points?
It's jail time,
Okay.
up to 5 years.
But
Okay.
serious bodily injury is just 8 points?
I apologize. I don't have the transportation article right in front of me. I just know
That's
based
okay.
on anecdotal, but I know a fatality is up to 5 years imprisonment and serious injury. Patrick, once again, I hate throwing you out there every time, but you have the book right in front of you. If you could give the distinction.
I think he's looking at it.
Well, I know that under the criminal law article, it says homicide, life-threatening injury under 3211, or assault committed by vehicles, 12 points. Also know that driving while under the influence, per se, that's over 0.8, or while impaired by the controlled dangerous substance is 12 also. Those are different violations. And the only reason you're seeing impaired in the bill is because it's right next to reckless driving.
Right.
It's really not particularly relevant to the bill.
I mean, it is and it isn't.
Yeah.
Well,
She's
the fact
saying-
is impaired is lower level than drunk driving. That's why it's got lower point level.
DUI as opposed to DWI.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, on line 3, where it talks about the, in a race or speed contest, it's 5 points. And then down below, where it says in a speed contest resulting in serious bodily injury is 12 points. So they're going to stay separate. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
So if you're racing, but no one gets hurt, it's 5 points, but you're racing and somebody gets hurt, it's 12 points, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the way the bill's written. I don't know that I have a specific position on it, other than I would say, it seems to me like 5 points is, if you're involved in a speed racing contest, you really have the ability to hurt a lot of people and kill people. So I think that 5 points, it seems like not nearly enough, whether somebody gets injured or not.
Well, I'm just,
Go ahead,
I'm just,
Andy, I think
I'm
you were-
just trying to get clarification on what it says, and that they're two separate issues.
You're right. We're almost rewriting the whole bill. It's basically what we're doing with this thing. I mean,
I can tell you what to
We're
do.
taking a lot of work on this.
I can save you some time, buddy.
yeah, I'm sure you could. But I think there are some valid issues in this bill. I think we just need to hone in on one
That's
or two
next
of them
year's
and then
bill.
throw the rest out. Because it's too complicated. I don't know if everybody else thinks that way, but right now, out of 3 things we're talking about, we're okay on flag timers. Exhaust, we've pulled out of the bill. The plate, increasing the fines for the plate, we're going to tell the delegate to put that in a separate bill. So we have 1 out of 4 so far. The question is, do we want to do something? And I am of the opinion that we, not even looking at the bill so much, we probably should do something on speed contests. 5 points seems to me to be low. I don't know that we should talk about participating in resulting in serious bodily injury, but I am open to a conversation about that particular piece, and then maybe we just let the rest of the bill go.
I think looking at that is good. I'm not ready to make a recommendation yet, because personally I want to take a look as to what else is in there. And so the value statement that we're making as compared to other pieces of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so
And
why
I
don't we
also,
hold-
this same,
Go ahead, Brooke, sorry.
I was just gonna say, asking somebody to put in something into another bill is not, I mean, that's not gonna happen, right? At least this year, since our
Right.
bill drafting deadline is passed. So I would just say, just to keep that, for all of us to keep that in mind. That's not realistic. But I agree with Sarah, though. I would like to see what else. I was just going to try to pull up the code. Our internet just came back, our power just came back on. I was going to try to pull up the transportation code and just see what points are for other things. But yes, I would like to do something on the racing issue for sure.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we've made a lot of progress on this bill. Why don't we hold for now and let everybody think about it over the next week?
Okay.
But, right now, I think that as many pieces as there are in this bill, if we can get a couple of pieces out, I would like to do that. So why don't we hold on point number 4, which is the actual part of the speeding. And then Patrick, maybe we can return with some other comparables as to what others are at 12 points or 10 points or something like that.
And for your all information, it's 16402 of the transportation article.
Yeah.
16402.
And I think most
Can we
of
come
you,
back?
yeah,
Could we have an updated version of the bill with things crossed out that we've already decided we're not going to do?
Yeah.
okay.
That'd be great.
Why don't we do that for the next week? And I'll also talk to the delegate, the bill sponsor, and try and gain some clarity on some of his positions and come back. And all of you are welcome, of course, to do the same thing. But I think we made some good progress on a kind of a bill that's got a lot in it. Is everybody good with that? Okay. Let's go to HB 115, canceled, revoked, suspended driver's license penalties, Delegate Moon. That is Patrick, isn't that a retread from last year?
Kind of. It's interesting because it is, except for, it's got this provision. First of all, what the goal of the bill is saying that we've already said, if you're driving on a canceled, revoked, or suspended license, take them out of the jail time, lower the fines. We shouldn't have people, the idea being we shouldn't have people in jail for this offense, especially since people often don't know their license is suspended when they're driving on. So we've already done that. This one was apparently an oversight in that bill, which is the display of a canceled, revoked, or suspended license. And
But they don't even know it's canceled or revoked or suspended.
doesn't
They
matter
play it, they can
whether
get
they
it.
know or don't know.
Right.
But so it basically says that, if you're convicted of a violation of displaying such a license, you're subject to a $500 fine instead of the current penalty, which is 2 months and a $500 fine, maximum $500 fine. But there's an added twist to this. And by the way, the bill, I said sort of a reintro because A, it's a little different, and B, it went to judiciary last year for some reason. It says, but the old penalties, the 2 months, 500, apply if the revocation or suspension was for basically drunk driving offenses. Whether not taking a breathalyzer, drunk driving, accumulation of points for drunk driving offenses.
Then the fine stays the same as it is in current law.
Right. I don't know. Looks a little weird to me in the sense that the violation is displaying a suspended license. And whether you were drunk 6 months ago and made a mistake doesn't seem relevant to that particular offense.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I agree.
Sarah? To what Patrick just said. Okay,
Is there something you want to discuss with the sponsor or something?
yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't totally follow that.
It's a little confusing.
I just pulled it up. Can you tell me what part you're referring to, Patrick?
Yeah, it's page 2, subsection R.
Yep. Person convicted of a violation.
2 months or a fine exceeding $500 or both.
I don't get it either.
I don't get it.
Okay, let's hold it. And Patrick, I'll
Maybe if
catch
you
up
could
with him
hook up,
later and I'll call David to see what his intent
if
is.
you could hook up a meeting with me, you and Delegate Moon, that might
That'd be great. Okay.
This also has a requirement to appear.
That's actually current law. It's poorly written in the law.
So
It came
I'm
out of
looking
Justice
at,
Reinvestment.
Because it's in caps in this on page 3, 2I.
Right. Take a look at the language below it, though, that's bracketed out. See, it says,
Oh, I see. It just moves it. Okay.
you see, it says currently a person convicted of a violation must appear. Well,
Right.
will appear if you're already convicted. That came up
Oh,
with
yeah.
reinvestment, and that was a mess.
Okay.
just,
I see it.
I'd like to go back to my notes to see what I wrote down. I think the intent is to make sure folks who end up getting stopped or pulled over for any reason don't go to jail because they have a suspended license. So,
I
Right.
agree. I think
So-
that is
Yes.
his intent. I think that is.
That's the intent.
but I get that this may not, I get that this may not do that. So I guess the question is I'm happy for us to hold it, but I'm also curious about what will get to his intent if,
I also support the bill. I also don't know why we're making these people go to court. So, like, why do they have to go to, like, I don't know. I would also like to talk to Delegate Moon. I think it seems like they should be able to pay the fine and not appear in court if we're right now trying to reduce the burden on people who don't know that they have done this
Well, let's
necessarily.
talk to Delegate Moon Patrick. I'll set up a time. Try to figure out what his true intent is here and try to clean it up because it is written in a kind of confusing manner. Okay. HB 291, that's Delegate Krim, vehicle laws, failure to pay, video tolls, outstanding fines. 291.
When we had the presentation by Delegate Krim, there was talk about the 1-year amnesty, and she seemed amenable to that. And then would go back to the normal fines. I would suggest we move in that direction.
That's still a big.
bill number again?
It's 291.
291.
Keep in mind, this bill has a $162 million fiscal note.
Yeah, Patrick, you're right. But I think if we do a 1-year amnesty, we might get paid stuff that we would never get paid. Like, it's not going to
I
not pay
agree.
anything.
I mean, we
My
can't
point, go ahead, I'm sorry.
have something with that
Go ahead, Brooke.
kind of,
I'm
with
sorry, who was,
corporations.
everybody's
Just
breaking up.
pass something.
One more time, Brooke, you broke up.
Brooke, you totally broke
Oh,
up.
sorry. If it has that large of a fiscal note, my impression was that we needed to speak with the Appropriations Committee. Is that not
Yeah.
true?
Absolutely true.
Especially
But
this year.
also-
Also, there may
Okay.
be some bond relating issues. These things get very complicated very quickly when it comes to bonding. So
I understand that, but I think the point I think I made in the hearing that day was the reason why it's so large because it's taken into consideration the late fee, which is was it like the $50 late fee on something that's like $6. So
Yeah.
I question, I think to actually Delegate Parrott's point of getting something versus nothing. But the point is it's so large just because the penalties are so large. And if that includes the penalties, I'd be interested in knowing what actually the real cost is of folks who just didn't pay the fine, not just the late fee, because we shouldn't be making revenue off of late fees if a late fee is just in place to deter people from paying their fees late. So I think to Delegate Parrott's point, it's like we should probably have an amnesty because we get most of it, not anything. But if the point of this is to, say money is owed because we also are looking to gouge $25 and $50 from a $6.
what is the current fine? Is it 50? Go ahead, Ann.
I agree with what's been said so far. I especially agree with what Regina's been saying. But I also would like to throw into the mix, if we are going to go down this road at all, and I think an amnesty probably makes some sense. One thing that we have to fix, I think, is this 30-day period. I'm still getting Christmas cards. The post office is not delivering things in 30 days, let alone give 30 days to respond to something. So I think we have to address that too, if we're going to take this issue up, this bill up. And we're going to, if we do something with an amnesty, when they reinstate it, we need to fix whatever that time frame is for people to respond.
It's 45 days now, but you're right. I'm still getting Christmas cards too.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. Also, I think on something like this, we should probably check with Maryland Department of Transportation, MVA, whoever, just to kind of see if there's some unforeseen circumstances or ideas here. But I like the idea of potentially transitioning this because of the fiscal note. If that's at all possible, I think that's worth that's worth discussing and bringing others into the fold.
Yeah, I think one other issue with the Transportation Authority is they're relying on these fines instead of raising the cost of going across the bridge or using the tunnels. They reduced that, and now they've shifted the burden onto people who may or may not know that they owe this, and they have a huge fine for missing a payment. So something else to think about.
Amen, Delegate Healy. Amen, Delegate Healy. Amen.
All right. Another one we'll have to, Patrick, I think we have to bring in the Department of Transportation on this and see what the full ramifications are and see what their thoughts are for an amnesty prop. Yeah, okay.
Hey, can, 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Do you think you could, we could maybe get the governor to do an executive order on waiving some of that late fee?
I don't know. The governor never replies to me every time I've ever asked the
Well, he
governor.
doesn't reply to me either. I'm just asking.
Well, we're streaming live on YouTube, so Governor. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, they did waive fees on licenses, on hunting licenses and all kinds of licenses. So I'm just wondering if I'm asking a question that I really don't know the answer to. I'm just asking.
It's a good question.
It could be done.
Actually, there is the answer. Part of the answer is that it's the Transportation Authority, which the governor doesn't have direct control over. The governor took credit for reducing the fares going across the facilities, but he really didn't have the authority to do that. It was done by people he appointed to that authority, and it's the authority that has to decide how they manage that whole system, what they rely on, how they budget, what they bond against. All of that was set up as a quasi-independent entity. And that's one of our problems with trying to regulate them.
Well, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's just take this bill. We'll I'll have some conversations between now and next week with the Department of Transportation and Patrick. We'll kind of see if there's a workaround or there's a way to do something with this, because as Brooke, I think you brought up, with that kind of fiscal note, that's there's no moving forward with this bill in its current form with a fiscal note even remotely that size. So, okay, more homework for us, Patrick, or I guess a lot for me. The last one, HB.
There's two more.
Two more?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
you're
got
right,
two
the
more.
last
You're
guy.
doing
You're
good,
right.
Dave.
383 red light cameras, exclusion of vehicles rental. Okay, I remember this. This is HB 383. Did we have this one last year?
No.
This basically, what this does is it says that that they have to pay the fine. There's no, if they get a ticket, they have to pay the fine.
Well, it sets up a process that already exists for school bus cameras that the rental car companies can go through to avoid liability or put liability on to their customers. It turns out apparently that it's just too cumbersome and that the rental companies don't use it for the school bus cameras and they just pay the fines. But this bill puts in the same process for red light cameras that we had for school bus cameras. I believe the reasoning on the school bus cameras was that, a lot of rental cars, let's face it, they're mostly driven by out-of-towners, not all the time, but mostly.
Right.
And, out-of-towners are unfamiliar. I know I've gone through a couple of just hidden stoplights in DC every now and then that you just don't see. But school buses with their signs, the stop signs and the flashing lights, they're all the same nationwide. If they don't know that, they shouldn't be on the road. So they put that in for school buses. That was the logic there.
So what is it currently if you are renting a vehicle in the state of Maryland and you run a red light and you get a fine for a red light camera, it goes to the registration, which is whatever rental car agency it is, and they have a choice of either paying it directly or passing it along to the renter of the vehicle.
No, if it's registered in a rental company, they're exempt.
So they don't pay anything at all. They just go
No.
through the stoplight. Okay, that's what yeah.
I think there's.
But in other I'm sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead,
I'm
Andrea.
sorry. Go ahead, Andrea.
In other states, even when you rent and you let's say you go through a toll booth, you as the driver, the renter, are responsible for that fine.
Yeah, you are.
So what's the difference? A toll booth versus a red light camera.
The difference is that a red light camera has a higher probability of getting someone hurt or killed.
No, I guess I'm asking. So the bill is exempting, right? The rental company.
No, I think
Did I
they're
remember that
exempted currently.
correct? I'm sorry.
I think they're exempted currently.
Yeah, my impression of the testimony from the rental companies was that the cost of compliance is prohibitive. So even though like if one of us were to run a red or, speed or something while we're in a rental car and the rental car company sent us the bill, like we would pay that. Many people don't pay that. And so they would end up eating that cost. That was maybe I could have been completely misunderstood. I could have completely
Yeah.
misunderstood.
No,
the
I think
testimony,
you're right.
but that
I
was
think you're right.
But I
That
don't
was my
understand the
understanding.
process in that I have to have a driver's license in order to rent a car. Therefore, I'm liable for anything that happens while I'm in the car. So I don't understand how they end up eating the cost of my negligence to begin with. Like, it's just like any other ticket. Like if I don't pay it, at some point, somebody's going to.
Well, this is automated enforcement, so the license isn't involved.
Right. It goes to the rental car company and then they have to find you. And it's, 2 weeks after you've left the state where you've rented the car.
I mean, the point I'm making is that
Yeah.
it's the access of, I have a license. I can't rent a car without a license. So I guess I just don't understand the process to begin with, because I've rented a car and end up getting something in the mail. And I was just like, oh God, I pay it.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't understand how or why they would have to then eat the cost. It would be up to the jurisdiction that has whatever the equipment is to go after the person who had the license that was driving the car. Like, none of this makes sense to me, actually.
Well, this can't be the first, Maryland can't be the first state to have this issue. So, and I don't remember per se what the testimony was from some of the other states. But we can't be the first one to have this as an issue. Does anybody? remember?
Delegate Carr just texted me.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Ann.
As I recall, there were two. I mean, I've rented cars in Florida, and it seems to me there must be something that they can put into the rental agreement, so that they've got your credit card number. They can charge you on, if you excel, you do something that costs them money. I'm not sure that it's something that can't be fixed internally somehow. The issue has been in the past more of a issue about, since a lot of these large rental car companies can designate where they register their cars, and we get a lot of money from them registering in Maryland, and even though they rent them all over the country. And I think there's some kind of fiscal offset that at least they try to sell it that way when they're promoting their issues. But I think that, they do say, like, we can register the cars anywhere in the country, but if we want to register them in Maryland, then we're incentivized to do that because we don't have to go through all this hassle. Maybe. That's the way I remember the discussion.
I do remember something about that.
So because I've gotten a little confused, and so if I can just clarify this, what he's attempting to do in this bill is for any car, any rental company who, let me start over. This would be in the state of Maryland. Rental car companies would not have to track down or pay a fine for one of their renters who has run a red light.
No, they currently don't pay it at all.
They don't pay it. And this is this bill then is saying that they have to pay it? And because I've gotten confused back and forth.
Yeah, so the current law, as I understand it, Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they don't pay it. So if you are living in another state or wherever you are, it doesn't matter. You just rent a car in the state of Maryland, and you go through a red light stop, a red light camera, then it's just waived. Nobody pays it.
Okay.
And this bill is an attempt.
This is attempted to correct that.
Yes.
Because one, it's dangerous. Two, everyone else has to pay the fine when they go through the red light.
Right.
And so now, what is the concern then? What is the, are we, okay, so now what's the base of this discussion? Because I'm sorry that I've just gotten totally confused.
No, it's okay. Look, we've had a lot of bills, and for whatever reason, a lot of these bills are really complicated today. I would say the big pushback from the rental car companies is that they don't necessarily have the resources or the facilities to go and track down this person to get them to pay the fine, and sometimes they're out of state, and so it's a lot of work for them to try to track that person down when they get the ticket in the mail 30 days or 40 days, 45 days or 60 days later or whatever it may be. And if they pay it directly and somebody only rented a car for a couple of days, that could completely wipe out any ability they have to make money if half of their profit is paid in a ticket. That's the complexity of the issue. Am I getting that right? Does anybody else have a? Regina?
I think that's.
No, go ahead. Regina, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Regina. I think you got it right. What we heard from the company is we have to pay this up front because we're the ones on the hook for the ticket.
Right.
So then we have to go chasing after the renter, and they may or they may not pay. If they don't pay, we have to keep chasing them, which costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time. So that was their argument. My question, though, somebody earlier brought up a really good point, which is we can't be the only ones doing this. So what I would like to know before moving on this bill is what is the law in other states?
Yeah, I want to know that too. That I asked that. I think that's a big piece of.
According to the testimony, there's only two other states that do it our way.
That do it our way now?
Yeah.
So everybody else requires the companies to pay.
There's like 18 states that have red light cameras. So you start
Maryland and Georgia.
Right.
And Virginia, I believe.
So
I'm being hit.
Sorry,
Delaware,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. So that
No. I interrupted you. No, go ahead.
So that means there are 15 states that, because there are 18 that have red light cameras. there are 3 that exempt rental companies. So there are 15 states that charge rental companies for running red lights.
That is correct. That is
And
correct.
how do they do it? Does anybody know?
So I'm getting like literally 2 messages blowing my phone up at the same time, being like, I'm answering your question. So let me see if I can put this in context for not only myself, but
Thank
for
you, Regina. And you know what, Regina, I'm getting the same ones and I'm just ignoring them because I can't keep up. Everybody,
that's okay. I'll do it
thousands
for
of
you.
people on YouTube are telling us what to do and I can't.
No,
Go ahead.
this is the delegate Carr, and this is someone else who said they didn't get the link to be here to speak on behalf of their client. So, so 20 states have red light cameras. Maryland and Georgia are the only states that exempt rental cars. The bill repeals the exemption. Enterprise claims that when they get a citation, they go after the driver and that they are successful in collecting 60% of the time. Current law is that rental cars are exempt from red light cameras. This bill repeals that. The others, somebody else sent me a message, says 40% of the time my client is unable to get reimbursed. Renter who is at fault oftentimes no longer has, of course, as Delegate Phaedra Hidalgo said, doesn't have the credit card on file or ignores the request from the rental company to pay. So 40% of the time, those companies eat the expense. And since the speed monitoring program is about safety and not revenue, the not at fault business pays. So the transfer, so.
Okay, so
I'm done.
that good?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Andrea, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to say, so, you know, the state also has the same issue where we have, you know, we have our laws and we have our fines and people come and, you know, we can't collect on those fines. And so, so the state ends up eating those costs as well. I think that was one of our bills earlier. The one that we held, Delegate Crim's bill, basically, or something similar to that. So I don't, you know, I understand their concern, the rental car company's concern. And, you know, certainly, you know, we need to be about the safety, because that is always first and foremost. But, you know, there is, when we were talking about the reckless driving and yeah, the bills, you know, there are fines that come along with breaking the law, and going through a red light camera is breaking the law. And unfortunately, you know, that's part of the business that, or the risk that, you know, the rental car companies take when they, you know, rent the car to somebody. You let somebody borrow your car and they have an accident or something happens, then, you know, they may have insurance, but ultimately you're responsible because it was your vehicle. So you know.
So what are you saying?
We can move whichever way you want. I just think that there's good arguments on both sides to, I think they're good arguments on both sides.
I agree.
Yep.
Yep. I'm curious as to how the other state laws do it. Is it just they're in the mix with everybody else? Because right now we carve them out. So do the state laws just have a blanket, you run the red light, you pay? Or is there some type of special accommodation for rental car companies? I'd be curious on that.
Yeah, I'd also be curious as to whether there is a way for the rental car companies in their contract to somehow figure out how to guarantee that to make it clear to somebody, if they do get a ticket, they're responsible for it. I'm not sure what that mechanism in their contract looks like, but I would imagine
It would be holding their credit card for probably 2 months until you get the ticket. And if they don't pay it, But I mean, it doesn't, I mean, any other way, it doesn't work. It's just like hotel, like they hold, it's a hold until everything clears.
Yeah, Delegate Healy.
Another issue is about, because if the way the red light cameras and the speed cameras are structured, it's not the driver, it's the car that gets the ticket.
Right.
And if your car is being driven by somebody else and not you, then you can go to court and say who is driving your car, and then the court can issue, that you don't have to pay, but then they can go after the person who was driving your car. I don't know how that works with a rental car, but there might be some kind of twist that might be adaptable or has been done in other states. I just don't know. I think we need to get more information about how other states take care of this issue.
I can speak to Maryland's law. If the ticket belongs to the car owner, it doesn't matter who's driving. It doesn't even matter if your car was stolen. It's your responsibility to pay that ticket.
That's not correct. You can go to court, and if you say your car was stolen, then that's a legitimate thing. You can go to court, and the judge will invalidate.
Yeah, I think Delegate Healy, you're right. I mean, if you have a report, a stolen car report, and you go to court and display that stolen car report and say with the date on it, and the date is before the car was stolen, then I think you get a get out of jail free card. But Delegate Healy, I don't know that you can just show up and say, well, I wasn't driving. I let my car to Neil Parrott, and Neil Parrott was driving. I don't know that the court is going to look favorably upon that. I don't know. I don't know. Lieutenant Brady, if you have anything to comment on that, I don't see that as being something that a judge would be really interested in hearing.
Well, the experience I've had is, yes, Delegate Healy, you are correct. You can always go to court and make a defense on any claim that you say. It wasn't me, it wasn't my car, that tag doesn't really look like me, I wasn't driving. It is then up to the court to decide, do I think you're telling the truth? Do I not? My experience with other states, and I certainly can't quote any law, is you guys are all right with they hold your credit card, and I travel on occasion with my family, and I sign a contract that says, and I'll use Florida as an example, you fly into Orlando, you go down to Disney World, it's tolls everywhere. And they're like, do you want to buy our prepaid tolls? And you're like, yes, no, whichever. But you agree whatever expenses you incur, you're paying. So it's really, the onus is on the business. And I don't know all of you, but I know some of you have your own small businesses. There's a risk with every transaction you take. Some people pay up front. Some people you have to take to court. Some people you never collect from. That's why the rates are what they are, to mitigate those risks.
Yeah. Okay. Yet another one. Go ahead, Delegate Jacobs.
Can we find out what other states do?
Yeah, we're going to find out what other states do.
Thank you.
So much for an easy subcommittee.
I know, right? Well, we have one more. The good news is we'll get answers to all of these, and next week we'll probably, pass a lot of, I hope we'll pass almost all these out in one way or another. Okay, so let's go to the last one, HB 404. This is similar but different than the bill from last year. It's actually substantively different than the bill from last year.
Delegate, Chair, I'd like to speak on this because I don't think that so last year there were several bills that came in that basically dealt with the same type of thing. And we ended up scrapping those really and did one bill, and we ran out of time, which was my bill actually. And
okay, thank you.
So the bill is back, and it's a local bill. It's gone through our delegation. We got the blue back. We just got the House bill number, so it will be coming through. And I believe that bill will handle this issue. And I did speak with Delegate Fisher about it. She just wants to make sure that, that the issue is handled. I think that that bill will handle this issue. So I would ask to hold this until after we hear the other bill. Because I think, and there may be two other ones that will probably be pulled that all are related, basically related. They deal with specific roadways, and my bill covers that without going into specifics about a specific road.
Okay, so you've talked with Delegate Fisher about this already?
Yes.
Okay, and she's okay with us holding the bill and trying to look at all these okay.
Yeah.
And just for the record, despite the rumors that have gone around, I checked. This bill is the exact same bill as last year.
Okay.
It is,
Yes.
okay. I was
Delegate
told it
Fisher
was
may have been referring to the
substantially
bill
different.
Delegate Harrison is talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
but her bill this year talks specifically about child care centers. And
As did last year's.
mine deals with roadways.
Okay.
Roadways, highways, whatever. Delegate Charles, bill. I think Delegate Lehman has a bill, and they're talking about specific roadways. Mine is more general, so it would cover all of these. And as long as it takes care of her child care centers, which it will, because it's only one area, it's really kind of specific, where the bill that I have is it's broader. And
So your bill is it's a local bill. Okay, and you've
Yes.
talked with Delegate Fisher about this,
I
and she's
have.
okay with us holding
Yes.
it and to kind of coming up with one comprehensive policy for all of these.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I could respectfully ask that we hold this, and then, once we hear it, I'm sure that she will be fine. I just want to make sure that that we're not having like 18 bills to deal with the same thing.
Fair enough.
I agree. And then Patrick, just on a side note really quickly, my understanding, one of the concerns we had with last year's bill was that there were so many childcare centers all over the place on smaller residential roads, and this
Yes, I forgot
opened up
about
a
that.
big Pandora's box that a lot of people were concerned with. But I thought this bill did not do that, but you're saying that it still does that with some of the smaller.
It's the exact same bill.
I forgot about that.
Because she said in the hearing that she had changed it so that it was,
You're breaking up.
she testified in the hearing that, oh, sorry, I don't know what to do. She testified in the hearing that she had updated it so that it only related to childcare centers, not in-home,
That's
basically
right.
just the big centers. She said that in the hearing.
Okay.
She did.
Well, we're holding the bill anyway, so I'll follow up.
She might have an amendment. I haven't seen one yet. It's not in the file.
Let's hold them all.
This childcare center, so. Okay, hold them all. So next week, we'll work on getting answers to all these questions, and next week will be a big week, and hopefully we'll pass a bunch of these out.
Mr. Chair, can I respectfully ask if folks how to make sure to get the link? Again, I was bombarded with the emails because,
Thank you.
because folks said either they signed up incorrectly or maybe they didn't sign up in time, but they didn't get the link. So help folks figure out how to get that link.
Yeah, I'll talk with
I
Molly.
will.
Good.
Yeah, I will say there are some lobbyists who email me directly. I'm not sure how I would contact them if they don't email me first, unless if someone gives me a list of all the people who need the link. But yeah,
Oh,
we'll,
Yeah, if
Molly, give me a
anybody who's
call
listening on
afterwards.
YouTube, if
Okay.
anybody who's listening, if you have a direct interest in one of these bills, you need to email Molly, establish that direct interest, and get a link. Just making
Perfect.
sure everybody knows that.
Yay.
And that's at Delegate Fraser Hidalgo's delegate email address.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
which
So-
is
And for all the subcommittee members, Molly emailed you out something from MDTA on ways to pay for Easy Pass if you don't have Easy Pass.
I didn't see that.
It's just for your information. It's not related to any of the bills.
Oh, you know what? Quick question. Are you sending it to our public email or our laptop email? Because that's something I never check.
the laptop. I'm sending it to your public email or
Okay.
the personal email that you, some of you sent me your personal emails as well. So I'm sending it to that for whoever. gave
Okay.
me that.
Thank
And
you.
then for those folks, per what Patrick just said, if you need to email me, email my office directly to get links. It's david.fraser.house.state.md.us. And it's on the legislative website. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
productive
you.
night. Thank you.